And welcome to a 99% complete edition of Ben's Junk. Such a disappointment. Anyway, long personal story time here. I have purchased my second cassette deck in a year, and nothing was wrong with the deck I was using. But back in October or November, when I found one that has an upfront pitch control, and it can properly handle the ever elusive Type 3 ferrochrome tapes, yeah, of course I picked it up. So this is a JVC KD-A6 deck, and it dates to early 1979. And this deck cost me $17, and I knew it was going to be something of a fixer-upper. And I knew that because when I tested it out in the thrift store, the buttons, like the play, rewind, fast forward, they weren't terribly responsive, and any tapes I stuck in the deck were only running in fits and starts. But it was also really dirty, and I had a conspiracy theory that 90% of what the deck needed was just a good cleaning. And also, all the lights and meters worked already, so I felt fairly confident that I could get it going again. So I brought it home, I opened it up, and I found that the deck was majorly filthy. But visually, at least, everything looked good. No bulging or burst caps, no melted or hardened belts, or any of the usual suspects. So then I cleaned it out, which actually took a couple of days and about half a can of deoxit. But I finally got it clean and got all the buttons doing their jobs again, and I calibrated the azimuth of the playhead, and then it came time to calibrate the playback speed. And I knew it was playing a little fast, and about 2 to 3% fast, and that's with the pitch control at the 12 o'clock position. So I opened the deck back up and I went looking for the appropriate motor, and I found that, unlike every other cassette deck I have ever owned, there wasn't a hole and screw to adjust the speed. But to make matters worse, I couldn't find any other likely parts. So I broke down and I bought a service manual for it on good old Fleabay. And the manual didn't really help. I found the seeming right part, which seems to be a screw on a semi-fixed resistor on one of the circuit boards right near the motor. And I just couldn't seem to find the screw. So, long story short, as a temporary fix, I just calibrated the speed using the pitch control. And the problem is, though, that as I found in making the most recent archive episode, when I record, it doesn't affect the recording speed. So everything I record comes out fast. So as it stands right now, aside from the speed issue, this thing is restored. I'm just on the fence about trying to really knuckle down and finding that elusive screw myself, or just taking it to a repairman to finally seal the deal. Anyway, onto the deck proper, finally. I am really liking this deck for one simple reason, very simple reason. This has the least wow and flutter speed fluctuation that I've ever encountered on a cassette deck, within my realm of experience, of course. And yeah, it doesn't have Dolby. Instead, it has JVC's proprietary ANRS noise filtering system, which to my ears actually sounds exactly like the Dolby filter. But of course, as longtime archive viewers know, I prefer filtering to the needs of each particular tape when I'm doing transfers after the fact. And it's usually far gentler than any of the, pre-done stuff is. And I don't use noise reduction at all when I'm just sitting around and listening to tapes. Now, as for the things I don't like about this deck, aside from the elusive motor speed screw, the only gripe I have is that I prefer the bigger, strictly mechanical piano style keys, buttons, as opposed to solenoid buttons. Cleaning out all the oxidized gunk underneath those buttons sucked, and it took forever. But otherwise, onto the toys. Starting from the left, we've got a headphone jack, and then we've got 2 1/4-inch mic or auxiliary inputs, and then we've got manual switches, those first 2 for all the recording and filtering things. And then to dink with the bias settings, let me stop this for a minute here. The first switch will handle type 1 and 3. So for 1, it's already in position. For 3, it's in the middle. And if you're dealing with a type 2 or a type 4 tape, you have to kick that all the way up and then toggle the second switch to whatever you're using. And then aside from that, we've got this big 2-part knob here, which separately, of course, handles the recording levels and the stereo pan position of whatever you're recording. And there's also 2 smaller knobs underneath it. And the one on the left is to adjust the equalization of your recordings. And given the speed issue, I haven't really played with that yet. And then the other knob, the one on the right, is a 100% real output knob, meaning that this not only controls how much signal goes to the headphones, but how much goes to the stereo that you presumably have this hooked to. And then on the right here, we've got the button to reset the counter. And then this machine also has a very nice, soft, slow eject as opposed to shooting your tapes at you. Although it was a little too slow at first, and I had to grease it just a touch because it was just getting a little hung up and it was taking a really long time to eject. But yeah. Then we've got a memory button, which I already had on. And so if you reset the tape counter to 0, as I have, in the middle of a tape, if you rewind or fast forward to that point, the tape stops automatically when the counter hits 0. So let's just demo that. So we're going away from it. Now we're heading back. Boom. And then aside from that, we've got another little switch here that's a timer standby switch, which if you have it to the left, it's for recording, and to the right, it's to play. And of course, center is off. But I haven't had any luck with this thing yet. And it doesn't help that I can't find a regular owner's manual for this thing, and it's not covered in the service manual. There might be an external device to hook this to, or maybe this part of the deck simply doesn't work, or more than likely Benny Boy is just a total idiot. But I've tried using it to start recording at, say, the 0 position on a tape, like punching in during a recording session. And then I've tried using it as a means of automatically starting a tape at a certain moment, coming out of a fast forward or rewind. So I'm rewinding back to 0 and to make it start playing automatically when it hits that point. I've tried it in tandem, of course, with the memory button, but yeah, I've had absolutely no luck with it. Anyway, let's take a cut here and we'll quickly go over the back of the unit, because there's just not much there. And we'll do the demo segment and we'll call it a day. The back of the deck is super simple. You've got RCA in and outputs, 1 pair apiece, and then you've got a bias sensitivity switch for use in tandem with Type 4 metal cassettes. And I haven't done anything with this as I don't have any metal tapes with something already on it to mess with. And I just haven't felt like using my one and only blank Type 4, largely because I don't have anything to compare it to. So, as it stands, the center 0 position seems like a good place for general everyday use. And that's just about it for today. Thanks for putting up with my ramblings, and let's do that demo thing.